It's fight night again. 2 toy companies, 1 character. In the right corner we have Hasbro, and in the left corner we have ToyBiz. Round 1 is packaging, and we'll start with the Hasbro M.O.D.O.K. As you can see, this is a deluxe figure from Hasbro. It is an oversized packaging. It's quite a long, narrow box, and there is no window display whatsoever. We just have this fantastic imagery, this photograph of the figure, but it's very beautifully lit. We have this fantastic background with all the energy behind him, and he looks like a genuinely mad scientist, and this looks pretty striking if you want to put this on display and put it on your shelf. On the side panel, we have this artwork that's taken directly from the source material, the comic books, which looks pretty fantastic and is consistent with the other figures in this line. Whilst on the reverse we have some bio, we have another fantastic photograph of the figure and his dimensions there, and we can see some of the highlighted features in smaller photographs on the right. So all in all, this is very presentable, looks really solid and very nice on display. Turning our attention to ToyBiz, well, there is no packaging because the ToyBiz M.O.D.O.K was a build-a-figure. You have to collect all 6 figures in this wave to build M.O.D.O.K, and it wasn't the strongest wave in the world, although there's a few interesting and new additions to the line at this point which made it interesting. But with no packaging to speak of, this does mean Hasbro wins this round. Looking now at overall presentation, we can see that the Hasbro version certainly has more accurate size in terms of its height and his width. The dimensions look more accurate to what we see in the comic books, and also his colouring, you'll notice, is a lot brighter, a lot more colourful, and in my book that is a definite plus. There's a bit more detailing and texturing in the headband on the Hasbro version, but I have to say that ToyBiz has that little bit of extra paint application which makes it stand out a bit more, and have really capitalised on that sculpt, which is great. In the bodywork we can see a lot more detail on the Hasbro version. There's a lot more buttons on the panel there, there's a few extra paint apps which are nice, when we can also see crucially that fantastic green zigzag line at the top there just underneath his chin, which is a crucial element of this character's design, something that's fairly iconic about the character, and a real shame that ToyBiz missed this very important detail. Similarly, if we look at that gear stick, we can see there's a lot more detail in the Hasbro version. There's extra paint apps in there to help this stand out and look more impressive, and it looks very nice as a sculpt. It looks like a proper gear stick, whereas the ToyBiz version looks a little bit strange. Clearly it is a gear stick, but it just doesn't quite look right. And then finally we have the jet effect. Now I have to say, I think I much prefer the ToyBiz approach here, having that smoke, having that detail and texturing there. Looks absolutely fantastic. They've done a really nice job with the paint apps on this, and it looks really effective, like you've caught a moment in time. The Hasbro version is going for a similar effect. It's more flame reliant, but however the plastic used is just a little too thick, so you can't really shine a light behind it to help it glow, and so therefore it looks a little bit cartoonish. But all things considered, I have to say I think this is another victory for Hasbro. Next up we have accessories, and the Hasbro version does come with a couple of extra pieces. We have an extra pair of hands, and we have an alternative faceplate as well. The left hand is sculpted to hold that joystick, but I have to say I had great difficulties getting to actually grip this properly. Somehow, no matter what I tried, it always looked a slightly off-center, didn't look quite right, and it didn't fit snugly into the grip as I might have hoped. I do, however, really like the alternate faceplate. I think that's excellent. We have a much bigger, wider, bulging eyes here. We have that open mouth with the teeth and the detailing of the inner mouth there, which looks really good. It looks textured, the paint apps are really nicely applied, and it looks very effective. ToyBiz, on the other hand, well, again, it was a build-up figure, so I'm afraid there's a big fat nothing in terms of alternate pieces or extra accessories, meaning that once again they forfeited the round to Hasbro. The final round is all about articulation. Let's start with the Hasbro. We have a ball joint in the shoulder which allows the arm to reach out to the side and up a little bit. There's not a huge range of motion here, but there is enough to do a few different looks with this character. Now he has a pin swivel at the elbow, so he can spin his lower arm around 360 degrees and bend it to roughly 90 degrees. There's another pin swivel at the wrist, so again he can rotate that hand all the way around and of course hinge it forwards and backwards. There is a ball joint in the joystick, which is fantastic, so there's plenty of range of motion here, and there's another ball joint in the legs of course, so once again we can kick those legs up and out a little bit. There's a single hinge at the knee as well, and there is a pivot at the ankle, allowing that foot to swivel from side to side and of course hinge forwards and backwards. ToyBiz also has a ball joint in the shoulder there, allowing the arm to spin all the way around and move inwards and outwards a little bit. There's a little bit less motion here than we see with Hasbro, but it is more or less the same. He does, however, have double jointed elbow, so he can bend his arm right the way back, which is fantastic, and he has a swivel at the wrist there as well, which is pretty cool. There's also a hinge at that wrist, so he can bend it forwards and backwards. And of course this was ToyBiz, so there was actual individual finger articulation as well. As you can see, each finger can be posed inwards or outwards on a hinge there, which looks pretty cool, being able to create a variety of different looks without the need to change hands. His joystick is a straight swivel, so it can only move side to side, which is a shame. It can't move forwards or backwards. He does have ball joints in the legs as well, so again very similar to what we saw with Hasbro, although the range of motion is slightly more restricted. But he does have double jointed knees, so there's an extra point of articulation here, and he has a hinge at the ankle, allowing the foot to go forwards and backwards. Overall then, I have to say the ToyBiz version takes this round because it just has a couple of extra points of articulation that Hasbro does not. So there you have it, going the 4 rounds together. Who is the ultimate champion? Well, as we can see, really it has to be Hasbro. Hasbro clearly and easily won 3 of the 4 rounds in this match. Now that might seem a little unfair when we're talking about a Build-A-Figure that didn't have any packaging when we look at the ToyBiz version, or indeed any extra pieces, again because it was a Build-A-Figure, but we have to still take these things into consideration when we think about collectors who really like their packaging and to see that as part of the figure and want to put that on display. Then Hasbro clearly has the edge here. Now when it comes to overall presentation, again I have to say I do think that the Hasbro version just has it. The dimensions of the character, his width, his chair, the little details that we see overall I think are just a little bit sharper, a little bit more accurate to what we expect from this character from the source material. That's not to do any discredit to the ToyBiz version, because I do feel like that was an excellent Build-A-Figure. It's one of my favourites for many years, and in fact when the Hasbro version was first announced I didn't actually intend to pick it up because I felt that the ToyBiz version was certainly good enough. However, having compared the two in the flesh side by side, I have to say Hasbro is just a little bit more impressive, both in terms of its dimensions, its detailing, but also its paint apps. It's a lot brighter, a lot more colourful, a lot more true to character. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and remember to subscribe, as there'll be plenty more videos soon.